heck of a time in there. So anyways, you know, probably one of the biggest things that we have been focusing on and emphasizing is being able to hit the restart button. And not only just for spring practice, but just on a daily basis, understanding that the principles and the values of this organization, they have to be elevated all the time. The attention to detail with everything we do, really. I mean, I'll go as far as to say as when we go to a meeting, getting there really 10 minutes early instead of 5 minutes early. Making sure that we're taking notes in a meeting, that we're taking really detailed notes, that we're accountable for every single part of the offense and defense and special teams, that we know it inside out, the detail of our execution, the way we handle ourselves, the way we execute, not just how we play the game, but the way we play the game. And that's on everybody. That's on everybody in the organization. It was a very positive first day. These guys they're antsy, you know, they want to put pads on and hit each other, so we did a good job controlling that. And but overall, just really pleased with the amount of effort, because in essence, we felt that our guys treated the fourth quarter program, the offseason program, as if it was a privilege to be here, and they treated this first practice as if it's a privilege to be a member of this football team. That's the way it's got to be, and those are the standards that we have set.
Do you notice after your first year, your second spring, that this team's more ready, more physically ready to go into year two?
It sure felt different out there, just from a speed, closing on the ball, creating separation, being able to maintain balance and body control. I know that's something that we say often, but it's important to have balance and body control, not only to be a better player, but to be able to practice fast and to practice full speed without having guys on the ground. And that's a product of the developmental cycle, particularly the fourth quarter program, the off-season program. Very pleased with the way a lot of the bodies have changed. And people always think bigger, faster, stronger. It's more than that. Balance is important. Core strength is important. Ability to decelerate is just as important as the ability to accelerate and close on the ball, on defenders, on whatever it may be. So overall, it really felt like a team that has taken another step from a physical maturity standpoint.
How much, compared to your first spring practice last year, first fall camp, do you feel like you guys are further along, even though you've got new coaches, a new defensive scheme, than those first practices of those periods? I
was surprised that, you know, I guess we'll watch them and see how many mental mistakes there were, but I was surprised how quickly guys picked things up. But at the same time, we weren't, because we know we have a smart football team and a team that invests a lot of time in what we do. And being that this was a Saturday practice, it also allows you to have a 20-hour week. Right. You know, that's a great little caveat there, because now your walkthroughs and your meetings you have extended time, as opposed to if you didn't, if it was a regular 8-hour week, and that helped a bunch. So we literally, I mean, it was almost like having a dry run, or a dress rehearsal, so to speak, the last few days on where to go, how to do it, the expectations. But I thought everything. I thought that the part that, you know, and the coach will laugh at me, and I'll say, well, this was important to me, that the way we stretched, the detail of that, the way we're running on and off the field, the way we were, guys just were not low from the go. Guys were pushing each other and encouraging each other with the right kind of stuff, trying to positively affect each other as teammates. I thought that was great.
I could hear a lot of hooting and hollering at the end of that practice there. What was going on at the end?
Oh, it got pretty competitive, you know, where you want to be competitive and at the same time not risk injury. But, you know, the defense had made a couple plays in a row, and the offense had made a couple plays in a row, and they like talking. It reminded me of, you know, some old school football I'm pretty familiar with, but it was just good to see that kind of juice and energy, and at the same time crossover, what would you say, crossover enthusiasm, where guys on the defense would go to the offense and say, hey man, that's a tremendous play. We won't need that. I'm coming after you next play, but we're going to need that on game day. So really pleased with that, and at the same time understand that we have a ways to go, and so that restart button is going to be hit every day. And when they come back for meetings and dinner this afternoon, that's part of it too now. You got to do a better job meeting, you got to do a better job learning from film, you got to do a better job taking care of your body and not be an immature body. You got to eat the right stuff. I'd love to go and, you know, have about 14 double cheeseburgers after something like this, but we got to be mindful of how that's going to affect us in the coming days.
How long do you think it'll be before the freshmen who are reported early will start having an impact, making you notice, and before you'll start talking about that?
I thought it was noticeable today. I thought Josh Delgado had a couple nice catches. I thought a guy to point out today was Brian Addison. To me, that's a perfect example of football and development, because you guys remember he got dropped off here, right before we started fall camp. Think about that. Think about, you went to prom, what, a month before that, and all of a sudden, hey, by the way, go play Power 5 football, and what that feels like. Well, now, after 2.5 months of this program, his body is different, his mentality is different. So did he take over the world today? No, but he was a very productive player today. That's important. But I do want to mention, Kayvon Thibodeau, which I thought Drew Mathis looked great. G-Mon Eford, look really good. Kale has a very, I wouldn't say a very mild foot injury, so we held him out of live action, but he did throw the ball one-on-one. You could see, strong arm, accurate arm. So they had no choice but to be mentioned there. They're in the 2 deep right away, so they got to roll.
You lost some seniors that are very important leaders on this team.
Sir.
Do you push new guys into those roles, or do you want to see that grow kind of organically within the team?
Yeah, it's both. It's both. And I remember last year, our first leadership council meeting, it was like, okay, how's this gonna go, right? But by the end of the season, like by the first couple of games, you saw Ugo Amadi step up, right? You saw Justin Hollins and Jalen Jelks really take a really strong role, and as a leader and as a member of the leadership council. But you also saw Troy Dye already doing what he does, right? Justin really came on strong at the end of the season. Now you have, 5, 6 senior offensive linemen that have played a lot of football. You've got a couple older tight ends. We're still young at a couple other positions, but you're older at defensive line. In the secondary, you like to think they're older, but they're true sophomores on their way to being true juniors. Those are just babies at other programs. But even they look different in what they do. So, you can tell I'm really excited about the first day. So I got to, temper it down a little bit because we were running around out there in really like PE uniforms, right? You got a helmet on, a jersey, and some shorts. But the thing I'm always going to measure on a day like today is how we're doing things. What is the culture doing? Because it can't stay still and it certainly can't go backwards. It's got to elevate. I think we did that today.
Before you tone them down, how excited are you about your veteran offense?
No, it's, you spend sometimes an entire career trying to get to this moment where you've got a group of guys that have played so many snaps. They know what they're thinking. Like, I'll tell you, if Shane left now and Jake Hansen was over here and they probably could telepathically know what they want for lunch. They can do that. They spend so much time together. Just by the way they walk, they could tell, well, he's going to go omelet and he's going to go, more of a lunch type of brunch. So, and that's kind of neat because they could tell how each other think, and they know each other's. They have great habits. And you know what? I should have mentioned this. One of the best parts about these guys is that they do a great job training the younger guys. Like Panay walked into Stephen Jones, Randazzo, all those guys. They walked into a regimen now. Where I remember Panay, his first game of the year last year, he got to the meeting about 2 minutes before the meeting started. And the older guys know, if you're late to that meeting, you ain't playing on Saturday. So, a bunch of soldiers are waiting for him at the door. And the guy said, that's not the way we do things around here. And Panay now is that guy as well. So I just think having that kind of leadership and that kind of experience is invaluable in a lot of different respects. And there's a blessing in as Throck rehabs and gets his body right, it forces other guys into that role and allows us to play with different guys at different positions and will allow us to have a legitimate rotation at the offensive line.
As the decision to move Dawood to defense, and are there other guys you're toying about possibly looking at other spots?
You know what? It's something that we had thought about, when the offseason started. It's something that he's wanted to. He's talked about it before. He's an extremely fast player. He's an explosive guy. And he's played defense as well. And if you watch him on high school film, he did both relatively, or similarly effective. He just was a very productive guy. And so we gave it a shot. There's a lack of true depth on both sides, but felt good about it, so we went with it. And so Dawood started, playing corner a couple of weeks ago, and he's done a really good job so far. We think he's going to help us. He's a 6'1" guy with speed.
Any other possible things you're toying with in terms of position changes, or everybody else?
Well, I know Matt Mariota is going to get more reps at wide receiver. He's been kind of an H-back, tight end for us. So that's one that definitely sticks out. Aside from that, aside from trying guys at inside and outside linebacker or moving like a guy like Sione to play like a big defensive end position outside, because he is a long, lean guy with some good suddenness and foot and body quickness. Yeah. Aside from that, I think we're pretty good.
As spring progresses, what is the biggest thing you look for as a coach?
Well, spring ball, in my opinion, is a couple things, and I know you're going to hear this every year, and they're going to turn off the microphone because you're going to say this guy always says the same stuff. It's you have to establish a really strong work ethic within the program, the organization, and everybody's position group. Like, it has to be elevated. It cannot be the same. That's where the restart thing comes from. Your fundamentals and your technique have to go to an entirely new level. And you have to have what we call, we have an objective for every single practice. We have a purpose, and we make it clear with our players. And then on top of that, the last two things would be communication, both verbally and from a signal standpoint with players, right? The defense when we're playing at home, it's you're shattering in there. They can't hear the call, right? They got to signal it offensively on the road. Communication has to be at a premium. And the other part, we have to learn how to become quote-unquote full-speed players, which means that we're going to set an effort standard and a level that's almost unattainable. Does that make sense? Where it's so hard to attain that status and that standard that guys are literally just straining their gut on every single play, thus making them better football players.
What are you going to do this spring that you can help improve your running game?
Well, I think that's always going to be at a premium. Number one is from a technical and fundamental standpoint, the man blocking part of it has to become something that's more at the forefront. We've done a lot of zone blocking, and we got away from the gap schemes towards the end of last year due to some of the burner issues that we had with a couple of our guys. Hence, when you have pulling guards, kind of shorten their necks a little bit. So we're going to get more into our gap schemes again. Our tight end blocking emphasis and fundamentals are going to be through the roof. We've added about 4 new concepts in the run game that should help. We're going to do everything from the gun, the pistol, might be under center a few times as well. Players always ask, why is he touching the center? It's like, that's old school football. So we'll do a couple of different things that'll help mix and match, but at the same time, from a blocking scheme standpoint, even though technical and fundamental will get better, we have a pretty significant amount of wrinkles that should help us.
Time for a couple more?
Is that a lot? 400 new schemes? Is that a lot?
How many?
What you just said on the run? Would you say 400?
No.
You said
just like
4. Oh, sorry, I heard 400.
400 maybe by the end of my lifetime. But no, sorry about that. Just 3 or 4 little things that are good for us. When we were running the ball well and we were healthy up front, we were tops in the conference. When we got unhealthy, it got away from us. And when we get unhealthy, can't be an excuse. Know what I mean? We either have to have a guy that's ready to do it at the level we're doing it, or we have to find a way to give it some eyewash, right? Give it a different presentation to allow us to have success. Does that make sense?
I'm going to assume spring is really critical for your new D coordinator and for the defense to learn each other and get into what you're going to do there.
Well, the biggest part about this is, as a defense, it's important to tie in the front end of the back end. That's going to be one of the most important things that we do. And to do that, every player on the field has to understand where his support is, right? So if we're in post safety, right, that outside linebacker, if he is that flat defender, that he is the support player. As opposed to when he's an inside linebacker and the safety's coming down, he's got to know, well, I could spill the ball to him. Just understanding where our guys are at, what their responsibilities are, what the strength of each call is, and what the weakness of each call is as well. So when we do get hit with something that we can rally to the football, but when we have something called that should be successful, that we're playing with great technique, pad level, and fundamentals to knock the ball back.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Coach.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. Thank you for being here.